Hello, everybody, and welcome to Lesson 11 of our adult Sabbath School lessons on Psalms. We're talking a little bit today about some more history and some more good things that we can find in the book of Psalms. I'm joined here with Pastor Sasha and my friend Eric, and let us just begin with Psalm 87. I'm going to read from the first couple of verses here. His foundation is in the holy mountains. The Lord loves the gates of Zion more than all the other dwelling places of Jacob. Glorious things are spoken of you, city of God. So, Pastor Sasha, can you tell us a little bit about Zion?
The first time we have the word, the place Zion is mentioned, we can go to 2 Samuel chapter 5 and reading from verse 7. Now let's see if it's 7. Yes, the whole thing is 6 and 7. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you read it?
I can. Now the king and his men went to Jerusalem against the Jebusites, the inhabitants of the land, and they said to David, "You shall not come in here, but even those who are blind and those who limp will turn you away," thinking, "David cannot enter here." Nevertheless, David captured the stronghold of Zion. That is the city of David.
Mm-hmm.
So it's Jerusalem?
Yeah, it's in Jerusalem, let's put it this way. Jerusalem has, it's kind of an interesting topography here, because technically Jerusalem lays in a little depression, because you have the Mount of Olive and the Mount Scopus. They're large mountains that basically shielded from Judean desert. So it's kind of microclimate. You have to go up the hill and then you go downhill. When you go downhill from the Mount of Olives, you're going to get down into the valley of Chron, which is the stream, the only source of water for Jerusalem, which is not an easy thing. And then you have to go up again. When you go up, you're going to encounter two hills.
So like these, are you talking like the borders of Jerusalem, or this second hill is in Jerusalem?
Yeah, that second hill, one of two of them.
Okay.
The second hill, it's Mount Moriah where the temple is built. But the other hill, the first hill, that's Mount Zion. So it's like two hills inside the valley, which basically is Jerusalem and its surroundings. And usually they, from the time of the kings of Israel, they would build like walls around it. But usually in the old type of old cities, they would build a wall around the city, and there would be another citadel or stronghold, some kind of like a fortress or maybe like a castle, whatever you can say. And so what happens, Israel takes the land of Canaan, right? But as it says in the book of Judges, they did not drive out all the Canaanites. Mm-hmm. So because Jerusalem is kind of a little bit hidden beneath the major mountains, it's away from the major trade routes. It wasn't captured, and the Jebusites, one of the tribe of the Canaanites, they lived in there for another 400 years, and it was not correct. And the Bible, the book of Judges talks about it a lot. And so David corrects this mistake. So he comes in and he wants to take this place, which was settled by these Jebusites, the pagans, the Canaanites. They do horrible things. One of the things they do, they have a little valley there where they sacrifice children.
Right. So I feel like were the Jebusites mentioned in like Joshua? It's like the children of Israel, they tried? Did they at least try to drive them out? Or
they tried and they just decided not to. And the reason why, in the book of Judges, it says they kind of, when Joshua died, people lost interest. They kind of settled in and got their own possessions. Mm-hmm. and they just didn't care to continue.
So there was a moment that they were trying to expand out, and then Joshua died, and they were just kind of like, all right, we're good.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
done.
Yeah, that's
We're going to go.
probably this. Yeah, we can say that. But if you, let's get even more history to that. Biblical history, as we said in the last lesson, important. So this land was given as a possession for the people of Israel. And if you look at the ancient map, the land of Canaan is very interesting because, like from the perspective of economics, where do you think the largest cities are usually built in the world? What needs to happen to have a large city to be built?
Water source.
Correct. Excellent. But besides water source, one more thing with the water.
Agriculture. Farmland.
Transportation.
Ships?
Yes.
Okay.
That's right.
But I thought the Jews weren't a seafaring people.
Correct. Which is a paradox.
Okay.
There's no river.
Yeah, I have to Google
God placed his people in the land with no navigable rivers, and the shoreline was good for ports. So it wasn't conducive from the perspective of all other places, like take a look the United States, where historically which areas was the most historically developed?
Shoreline.
Yeah, Chesapeake Bay, New York Harbor, and Boston Harbor. And New York got the biggest because it has the Hudson River. Hudson River takes you up to the Great Lakes, and then it will get you back to the St. Lawrence River through canals, and then all over. And that's how the economy goes, right? Jerusalem has none of it, but it's in a crossroad of the caravan routes. And that's why for Israel, for God, it was important that his people would sit in the crossroad of the caravan routes, because through that, they could preach about God.
So basically, Jerusalem is sitting at like a node, like a nexus of a bunch of people just cutting through that area.
Exactly. Have you had a chance to look at the road atlas, American road atlas?
Probably once.
So think about something like Southern California around LA.
Crazy.
It's crazy. It will be road after road after road after road. So when you look at the map of ancient Near East, Israel will be the same. Like a road. The most roads will be there because they connect. It's between Mesopotamia, Egypt, between Asia Minor and Egypt, and everything goes through Israel, and Israel sits right there.
So they say all roads lead to Rome, but it's really all roads lead to Israel.
To Jerusalem,
To Jerusalem.
to Zion.
Okay.
That's exactly the point.
Okay, cool.
God's plan was, take a look at this. Isaiah chapter 2, verse 1. Let's start with verse 1. And 1 through 3.
Your turn.
My turn.
Yes.
Terrible idea. So Isaiah 2, 1 through 3?
Mm-hmm.
The world which Isaiah, the son of Amos, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. Now it will come about that in the last days the mountain of the house of the Lord will be established as the chief of the mountains, and will be raised above the hills, and all of the nations stream to it, and many peoples will come and say, "Come, let's go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, so that he may teach us about his ways, and that we may walk in his paths. For the law will go out from Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem."
You see Zion here?
That's really interesting. Because, okay, I never really understood, like, what the difference between Zion and Jerusalem were. I thought they were, like, the same name, or like, two different names for the same place. So, like, Zion is, like, the capital? Because Jerusalem's a city.
Yeah. Zion is just a part of Jerusalem.
So it's like City Hall?
Yeah, we can say that.
Okay.
We can say that. Because
I'm trying to like put into like, so.
Yeah, put it in like kindergarten for me. Like,
Right. Well, like, so I think Minneapolis is a good example of how if you type in basically any address in Minneapolis, if you don't go to like Edina, it's still like Minneapolis, but it's like a subset of Minneapolis of like the greater. Right? Does that make sense?
That's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
That's
like in
absolutely
third
correct.
grade, but I still got it.
Yeah.
I still got it.
Basically, like city of Rome is called the city of seven hills. And so when you say, have you heard Vatican?
Yeah. In Italy.
Yeah. What do you know about Vatican?
It's where the Pope lives.
Correct. Mm-hmm. That's where the Pope's residence is, but Vatican is the name of one of the hills in Rome.
Oh, so it's not in Italy?
It is, because Rome is the capital of Italy.
I knew that.
A little geography lesson.
Okay. No, because that's where you lose me, okay? Not only am I, like, not super well in depth with history, I am not super well in depth with, like, the map. I get lost with GPS on. So, like, I'm really trying to piece this all together here, but it's good, guys. I'm keeping it.
Yeah, we're the opposite. When I started, my best book when I was 5 was the World Atlas. And I would look at the country, you can ask me for any capital of the world, and I'll tell you.
Wow.
I've learned all of them when I was 7, and it's still in here.
Hashtag. I'm sorry. Respectfully, like, did you have a lot of friends? Like, did you get bullied or something? That's a very odd thing to enjoy at 7. Oh, my days.
It sounds weird to you, isn't it?
100%. Like 7-year-olds I know these days can't even read. And you're like reading the World Atlas. That's so bizarre.
You know why? Back in the Soviet Union, we had only 2 channels on the TV, and our TV set was more broken than fixed. So you turn on the TV, the old one, it's it's a lamp TV, inside, and it's a little antenna sticking on the roof. You turn on, that's all you can get. So I was hungry for the information. World Atlas.
Wow, yippee. That's enjoyable. Well, maybe I should get myself one. Okay.
Think of all the things you would know, Monique.
No, really. I think that's where it all started. I didn't have diversified interests as a child.
Right.
Sorry, guys. I liked Polly Pockets and Bella Dancerella. Should have looked at the World Atlas. That's unfortunate.
I wasn't very. When I was a school kid, I wasn't really interested in team sports. That was my problem.
Yeah.
So my boys my age played soccer, and I was the worst goalie in the world.
Yeah, so you just stuck to what you knew.
I knew the capital of every country in the world.
I'm just going to laugh at this all the way home. Okay, so that's really, I liked how we've kind of set the stage really here. And now these make sense, because when it's saying that the word will stream, what is it? The streams, now it's a literal stream. All the nations will stream to it.
Yeah, because everybody goes through it, and everybody goes and sees, and they see the temple, they see the service, and God wanted that there, by going like somebody in Babylon, somebody, who knows, in Persia, on the route to Egypt, they pass by Jerusalem, they look at it, They see the temple. I mean, especially at the times of Solomon, it says all world knew about his wisdom. Because, how did they know? There was no internet. There was no even newspaper. No this humming AM radio and television. The only way you can know it is to learn about it by coming by foot or by camel to this place. When you come through this camel, through this route, and think about this, how people got the news. We're in Middle Eastern nomadic desert culture. You walk through the desert, or today you drive through the desert and you run into a Bedouin camp. The guys, nomads with camels and stuff. Do you think they will like you or they will be a threat to you?
I can imagine the threat. What were you thinking, friends?
I was thinking it depends if you have anything to trade with them.
Oh, true. So if you had goods, maybe they're nice, and if you were empty-handed, they were mean.
No.
Oh?
They actually will like you. No matter what you have. They're not going to rob you. They will like you because you are the source of information.
Okay.
Now it's different. Now
You're
have
the news station.
Yeah. Well, now you drive, at least in Israel, Bedouins still live in tents, but in every tent there is a satellite dish.
Oh, that's funny.
And a Land Rover parked by the tent.
Yeah.
And the camels go and they, whatever they do on this Land Rover. That's today. But back then, there was there were camel and sheep and goats, no satellite antenna. And so these people were just busy milking the goats and herding their camels, and suddenly they see somebody walking. That's huge.
Okay, so then Jerusalem, was it respected as this major wealth of knowledge, or was it specifically just
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so the whole area.
Yeah,
so then,
exactly. Think about this. So they see here, they say, that's huge. So tell us something. Where are you from? And the guy just says, well, I'm going with my caravan to Egypt, but I just passed through Jerusalem, and we just were in a temple, and we learned this and this and this and this and this. Boy, trust me, these people are going to listen very carefully.
Okay, so it was a very intriguing, sort of nation. So then what about the culture within? Because this, we understand what the world thinks is Jerusalem, what the world thinks is Zion. But the same way we have different churches today and different ideas and different styles of worship, was Jerusalem divided, or did they have did they fall under that unified vision that everybody else had of them?
Yeah, that was a good question, Monique, because Jerusalem was divided. Again, take a look at Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 2, verse 5 through 8.
Come, house of Jacob, and let's walk in the light of the Lord. For you have abandoned your people, the house of Jacob, because they are filled with influences from the east, and they are soothsayers like the Philistines. They also strike bargains with the children of foreigners. Their land has also been filled with silver and gold, and there is no end to their treasures. Their land has also been filled with horses, and there is no end to their chariots. Their land has also been filled with idols. They worship the work of their hands, that which their fingers have made. So it seems like the plan kind of backfired. They wanted to be this great central location for everybody to kind of pass through and learn about them, but it kind of did the opposite, and they just started learning about the rest of the world.
Exactly.
Okay.
You picked it right there, because God wanted them to be the light to the world. They had to be consistent in their message. They have to be, they have to be really, really shining. That's what it's called today, proper marketing.
Yeah, okay.
But instead, the marketing messages of Philistines and all other pagans got stronger, and Jerusalem just began to fall into idolatry, instead bringing the good news so that everybody who passes by would learn about God. That's the problem.
I'm trying, so did they just not, so this goes back into the previous lesson. Did they just forget what they were supposed to be doing there? Like they just forgot their history and they started getting all caught up in what everything else was going on and they forgot what they were doing?
Exactly. So, think about this. What makes Americans Americans? Think about this. Which of the American holidays, because I was asked these questions in my civic exam. So I'm going to ask you what they asked me in my civic exam when I swore to the system. So which of the two holidays make Americans Americans?
4th of July and you know the second one. Independence? No, that's the same thing.
Thanksgiving.
Oh, makes sense. Yeah.
Very specific to the United States.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So when you think about 4th of July, there are places connected with this.
Right.
Philadelphia, the bell. When you think about Thanksgiving, there are places connected with this. Mm-hmm. Cape Cod, right?
Well, and there's so much history that is related. 4th of July has kind of faded into just blowing things up. But there's so much history on that date and why it's relevant and why it's important. And I wish we could figure that out or establish that a little bit more instead of just.
And this is the problem.
Yeah.
You said it right there. What do people turn 4th of July into? Just boom, 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 and boom.
100%.
Without even, there are plenty of stuff to listen on different podcasts, the news, they're going to talk about this, but do people really care?
No, literally, as far as you go about recognizing the day is just calling it Independence Day, and then that's where the conversation pretty much ends.
At least I've learned in Minneapolis area, at least it's way much better than Battleground. Because in Battleground, Washington, where I lived for 10 years, I think what people cared about, if you want to know where and get the most wildest and loudest firework ever, go to Battleground. You can buy them and you can legally blow the cities up.
Yeah.
There are some residents who are opposed to this, but the mayor is probably feeling some. It wasn't. The idea is, it wasn't like a corrupt deal or anything, but the deal was there were all these fireworks shops would bring their fireworks to Battleground, and that would definitely increase the tax revenue for Battleground, Washington. So the people began to ask, what's the best, because all the money would support fire department. So the fire department will have too much work on the on the 4th of July or something. But you see how this thing can really, really get profaned, I'd say, and people lose identity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We've gotten very close to that. There's a fascinating story behind the Star Spangled Banner, by the way, which that's a total tangent.
Is it like the whole racist one? Or like the normal one?
No. What?
I don't know, isn't it? Because they're like the mystery second verse or whatever. There's like a verse that's left out of what's sung. Apparently it's racist or something. Like everything else. Yeah,
everything's racist. I don't even listen to that stuff anymore. No, there's an actual story behind the Star Spangled Banner and why we blow things up. Why we fire fireworks.
So the fireworks have a historical relevance, not just because they're pretty and colorful?
Because the Star Spangled Banner was written by a dude that was on a ship, imprisoned on a British ship, right? And every time a bomb would explode, he could still see the flag on shore, knowing that they're still fighting because the flag's still there. So every time another explosion. So that's the whole thing. And there's a whole story. I'll show you afterwards. But It's fascinating. But it goes into what we were talking about last episode, where it's songs that tell stories.
So then when things were kind of going to shambles in Zion, was David still around? Like where were the Psalms when they needed to remember?
Yeah. Psalms were there.
Ooh, no excuse.
Because what Isaiah describes, perspective in history, Isaiah is definitely later than Psalms,
Okay.
because Isaiah is about 300, 280 years later than David. And so Psalms are there, but after David, there was Solomon. And the reference is really, really clear here that the land was full of gold, silver, and horses and chariots. And as soon as we hit this horses and chariots, it's clear that's exactly what Solomon did. Solomon married many different wives, and his wife was a daughter of Pharaoh.
Oh, man.
And Pharaoh was sending horses to Israel to prop them up. Pharaoh had a plan why he let his daughter get married. Because, you have to remember, of course, we have today world powers, right? Of course, two major world powers, back 50 years ago, what it was, United States and the USSR, right? The Cold War. Now it's probably going to be US and China, right?
I believe you.
So back 3,000 years before our time, it was Egypt and Babylon, to simplify. So for Babylonians to get, again, back to the geography history, U.S. is a blessed country. You can't attack it by the land troops, because it just sits the way, Mexico is not going to allow to attack U.S. by any troops of enemies. In other words, China cannot buy Mexico to allow Chinese troops to land in Mexico, and cross through Texas. If this would be happening, it means everybody here is, drunk or under the influence, that they don't see it happening. Canada is even worse case. How are you gonna do? Soviet Stalin wanted to attack U.S. through Alaska and Canada. Good luck driving the tanks through Alaska and Canada before they get to Montana.
I feel like they'll see you coming.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So yes, is very well protected. Egypt, relation to Babylon, wasn't that much protected. They need a buffer state. So there was Egyptian policy for many centuries to prop up Israel, to have them armed well, so before Babylonians or Assyrians go and hit the mainland Egypt, they would run into Israel and get smashed there. So that's why, and it all started with Solomon, the reign of Solomon. So Egyptian Pharaoh began to kind of build a diplomatic relationship. So he gave his daughter as a wife. Says, do you want some horses? And horses are expensive, And Solomon pretty liked that. And so horses, here your chariots. Because archaeologists found all of it. Have you ever heard the word Megiddo?
No.
Megiddo is a place that's on the top of the hill. It's the old fortress. So Solomon built it up, turned it into a place where he stationed horses and chariots. And archaeologists discovered the old stables.
So is this in Zion, or is this just somewhere in Jerusalem?
No, it was not in Zion. It wasn't around Jerusalem. It was about 80 miles north of Jerusalem. But the point is, Solomon was bringing all these horses and stuff, as is described here. And first of all, it ran the economy of Israel down because, boy, it cost money to feed all these horses and all these troopers and stuff like this, all these soldiers. And Solomon was doing it. Mm-hmm. But with that stuff, what the Pharaoh's daughter, she was not a believer in God. No. And she asked Solomon to build a separate house for her where she worshiped idols. So that's where the problem began. That's where Solomon's economic boom was turning into bust. And Solomon's wisdom that God gave him from the beginning of his reign turned into vanity, which he describes in the book of Ecclesiastes.
All things are vanity.
Yeah.
So did Egypt kind of dupe Solomon? I feel like he kind of duped him because here's my daughter, here's a bunch of horses and chariots, basically giving him everything it took to be that buffer for the war. Like, so here's your soldiers, here's your horses, here's your chariots. So if the war does break out between Egypt and Babylon, that Jerusalem is that buffer zone between the two. Like, you'd have to take them out first. And that goes back to what you're saying, Russia coming through Canada. Like, you're going to see them coming because the war started there.
Yeah, the Canada is much bigger than Israel, for sure. But exactly. That was the reason why the marriage between Solomon and Pharaoh's daughter happened. Otherwise, and why Pharaoh, because horses are expensive, but Pharaoh supplied horses. Mm-hmm. But it is interesting that this situation was actually foreseen back by Moses. Moses, when he was writing in the book of Deuteronomy, warned about this situation. Take a look at Deuteronomy 17, verses 14 through 17.
When you enter the land which the Lord your God is giving you, and you take possession of it and live in it, and you say, I will appoint a king over me, like all the nations who are around me, you shall in fact appoint a king over you whom the Lord your God chooses. One from among your countrymen you shall appoint as king over yourselves. And you may not put a foreigner over yourselves, anyone who is not your countryman. In any case, he is not to acquire many horses for himself, nor shall he make the people return to Egypt in order to acquire many horses, since the Lord has said to you, you shall never again return that way.
See, God knew and warned that Egypt would dupe Israel.
So oddly specific. Like, that's
right.
So, what? How is
Very specific. Mm-hmm. And he was the wisest man. But I think the daughter of Pharaoh was very beautiful gal, and he wanted her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he wanted her to like him. Yeah. I see it. So, yes, he was the wisest man, and he literally had this very specific and intentional warning. So, with all that said, and knowing all the things that he did were in vain, that wasn't enough to protect Solomon, and that wasn't enough to protect Israel or Jerusalem or Zion. So, how can we protect ourselves from outside influences?
Know where we come from, form our identity based on our history, not based on our emotion. You see, for years, people were formed based on historical identity. And what I discover in a postmodern world, historical identity is replaced with emotional identity. And that's why we can be easily duped, manipulated, are unable to make intelligent decisions, and that's where that's the path of problem.
Mm. So, okay, that's the perfect thing to think about, like finding our identity in history, which you can't refute. And I feel like a lot of times emotions you can. And there's a lot of things that can go wrong when you find your identity and your emotions. And I'm glad that there is biblical evidence of that. So I hope there's something that you could take from this as well. Something to leave down below in the comments, something that touched you or you feel like can touch somebody else. Let's make this a collaborative experience. Thanks so much for watching. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification because we're almost done and we don't want you to miss the last few episodes. Thanks so much again. Bye-bye.